Okay, let's do it. Let's do it, Amit. You ready?
I am.
Welcome to the 12-hour podcast, Amit.
Welcome to 12 Hour Podcast, Adam.
Yes, I like
And
starting it
it's
off that
been
way.
20.
But
Yeah, I still haven't figured out how do we begin it.
I think that's the perfect way. Welcoming to each other. We should also mention, I think right off the bat, we should mention to people, we do things different around here. Just if this happens to be the first time that you're here, which chances are it's not going to be your first time here because you wouldn't have come by to listen to this podcast because the way we do things around here is we don't actually view this podcast. We don't subscribe to this podcast. We don't comment, we don't do any of that stuff. We're a very different channel from all the other channels that are out there. Every other channel wants you to subscribe. They want you to like the video. They want you to try to boost their visibility through commenting and liking and all stuff. We don't do any of that around here. Our goal is we aim for we aim really for, well, we have 5 subscribers, so we don't want to have more than 5 subscribers. We don't want to have any views, no likes, none of that stuff. If we do that, then
Actually,
we've
Adam,
accomplished our goal.
you're misleading them. You are overestimating our goal. We are Our goal is to have negative subscribers and
Oh,
negative
true.
views.
True, that's right. That's right. That's true. That's true.
Yeah, and we are behind.
Yeah, we're already behind. That we haven't even posted the video yet and we are already behind.
Yeah. How sad that is. I wake up every day and I have this guilt of lagging.
I know, it's awful, right?
Yeah.
It's very upsetting. Very, very upsetting. It's frustrating. Well, in any case, welcome to the 12-hour podcast. Let's hang out. What we typically do also around here is we just hang out, talk about whatever's on our mind. This is, not scripted. We have no clue what we're going to talk about beforehand. Typically, we come to the podcast to, completely unprepared, and having no idea what direction the conversation will go. And I guess that's kind of part of the fun of what we do. Am I missing anything?
No, that's actually fun for us, and we don't care about the viewers.
Yeah. We're doing this. Our motivation really is just to hang out, like just me and Amit hanging out, getting to know each other. This is the only way that we know each other. This is actually the main way we get to just hang out and talk, and this is a great way for us to socialize, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. And we should also highlight that we don't know each other from any place else. Like don't really talk throughout the week.
Yeah.
We barely talk, and this is the most you will see us talking.
Yeah, which is actually the, like, I think there's an advantage to doing it that way. I think it's actually at our advantage in a lot of ways because then it gives us stuff to talk about, during the time together when we record these, which is Friday night for me, Saturday morning for you in India. I'm in Toronto and Amit is in Mumbai.
Yeah, two of the coolest places in the world.
Yes. Yes. There's nowhere cooler. Well, here you can say it's cool. There you'd have to say it's pretty warm. Huh?
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is warm. It's not even 8 a.m. and I can feel the warmth here.
Does it get, I think we talked about this, but I forget. Did we, so does it get snowy there at all ever?
In the northern places, yes,
Hmm.
there are a few northern cities that are known for snow,
Hmm.
but not all around the year. So, of course, during the winters, which begins around November.
Right. And I think I've asked you this before too, but is there the ability to ski where it snows?
I'm not sure actually.
Well, that's something that you have to find out. Or we could do what you typically do around here. We go down a rabbit hole of questions, finding answers to questions that we have. So let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's search how do we put it? I think we can start with Kashmir because that is the most popular northern place in India. So
Can people ski in Kashmir? I would think that they would be able to. Would imagine so. Yeah, here we go. All right. Yes, people can ski in Kashmir, located in the northernmost part of India, is known for its stunning natural beauty and picturesque landscapes, including high altitude mountains and snow covered peaks. The region receives heavy
there we go.
snowfall. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Gulmarg. Gulmarg?
Gulmarg.
Gulmarg? Okay. A popular tourist destination in Kashmir is renowned for its skiing opportunities. You've never. How far is Kashmir from Mumbai? Like, give or take, if you wanted to drive there.
I think 2,000 kilometers.
2000. Okay, yeah. So that's quite significant. Yeah. Wow.
But my family has been there, and I have never heard them mention skiing, so I wasn't sure.
Hmm. There's a Gulmarg ski resort there. Did you know that?
No, I've never been to Kashmir.
Hmm. Okay, it's situated at an elevation of around 2,650 meters above sea level.
Yeah, and that's the reason I haven't been there.
The resort features well-groomed slopes, powder snow, and breathtaking views of the surrounding Himalayan mountains.
Yeah, the view is definitely breathtaking.
Yeah, I would think so. Now we got to look up views uh, of Gulmarg Ski Resort. Let's actually we're going to copy this. We're going to go into
Google
Google.
Images.
Yeah, let's look up some Google images. Photos. Ooh. Ooh. These are nice. Let's load these up a little bit further. Okay, well, that's not really. Going skiing in Gulmarg, here's what you need to know. The basics. The base of Apawat? I'm definitely totally reading that. Is where it all starts. The mountain is split into two phases. Phase 1 is accessible by a gondola. It connects Gulmarg to Kungdori, from where you can ski down right back to the village. Phase 2, which can be reached on the gondola as well, connects Kundori to the Afawat peak. I think that's how you say it. There is also a chairlift from Kundori to Mari Shoulder, from where one can ski back further down to Gulmarg. Come on, pictures. Video. Ooh. That's a really awful sponsor. Oh my god. There's like this ad that popped up with this like lady's neck looking really chicken-like. Okay, this is a video. Hopefully this is going to show us some images of this, because right now it just says some things, I think, about... Oh, no, it's not really... It's just repeating. Okay, it's not really images of anything. This is not a good site. This is not a good site. Oh, here we go. Here's one image of the mountain of the gondola. You'll have to look at it later.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is nice. Wow. This is an image of... So there's like houses, chalets, like just buried in the snow. Wild.
I can imagine that.
Yeah. And a bunch of people just like... It looks like they're taking their kids sledding. Pretty neat. I bet you there's got to be better images than this, though. Ooh, this is a nice one. This is of the chalets at night, and you can see the Himalayan mountains in the backside of it.
All right, so you're from Canada, and I'm pretty sure you have done skiing a lot, and maybe sleds also.
Yeah, I've been sledding. I've been skiing. It's pretty typical at a young age. I don't know if they do this anymore, but I would imagine they would. But when I was a kid, for school, they would do a lot of field trips with the kids to different ski resorts, and you'd go skiing for the day. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah, and
I mean, for kids, they don't really care about anything, and they don't really fall sick from snow. I think they love to just
yeah,
sit in the snow all the time.
yeah, yeah. I used to run around just in my shorts and a t-shirt in the middle of
Yeah,
winter, snow fighting, making snowballs, freezing my butt off, but just not caring at all. It's fun.
you're a polar bear.
It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Yeah, like I remember when I was in school, when I was young, it was pretty common we had a huge field in the back part of the school. And people would, during recess, we'd make forts. There was a lot of snowfall when I was a kid. Not like now, but when I was a kid, there was a tremendous amount of snowfall. Like you'd get these just huge mounds of snow, and then you'd create these forts, these large
Mm.
forts, and like bases. So that way, by the time you got to like the next day, like or you do this over a couple days, but by the time you got to the point where your base was fully built, then you would uh, have an area where you could make snowballs and then just throw them at people and get cover
Mhm.
from the inside of your base. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, so it was like that game, paintball.
Hmm.
So you
But
begin to play. So on the first day, you make the whole setup, and on the next day, you play that game.
yeah, and then we just throw snowballs at each other. It's great. Yeah, kind of like paintball, except instead of paintballs, you're using snowballs, and instead of a gun, you're just using your hands and your arms.
Hands.
So yeah, yeah, it was a good time. It's a great time. Really
Yeah,
enjoyed
sounds
that.
beautiful.
Yeah, it was great. It's really good. And then you'd make like these tunnels, make these like tunnel systems, put like huge mounds of snow, and then you make little tunnels that would go like in the snow and come out one
Mhm.
side and crawl around in there or just like hang out inside. Um, and then create like
Is it possible? Is it possible to get trapped within the snow?
not if you build it properly.
Mm.
Yeah, if you build
So
it
it cannot collapse or anything.
no. And also you wouldn't like you wouldn't create like too big of a mound where there would be a ton of snow on top of you so that if it was to, fall apart or something that you wouldn't suffocate or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't dangerous. And we would make like these massive snowballs, huge. Like we started with a little snowball and we'd roll it till it got big, big, big until it got like bigger than us, be huge. And it'd be like, 5, 10 of us trying to still push this massive snowball and to be so big that it would gather all the snow and even the grass underneath would get ripped apart from this massive snowball as we pushed it. It's great just to see how
That's
big we could get
so
it.
that's true. Like I always saw this in cartoons, and I thought they are just hyping it up. That you roll a stone and it turns into a huge snowball.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, for sure.
So that really happens. And every
Yeah.
time, does it happen every time?
It depends on the type of snow. It has to be packing snow. If the snow's too fluffy and there's no moisture in the snow, then it won't
Uh,
pack. It won't stay compacted. It's too like fluffy. It just falls apart.
right.
So,
And is it true that it is dangerous for the people living around?
snow?
The rolling snowball.
Oh, well, I mean, I suppose it depends on where you're rolling it and what's in the way. Yeah. I mean, if you're
I mean,
just,
I mean, if a kid just rolls a snowball for fun, and
yeah.
how likely is it that it will, ram into some big house?
Oh, well, no, you do this like in an area where there's like a huge open field, you know?
Uh,
And so you're not rolling it like down a mountain. You're just doing it on a flat surface and you're just rolling
oh,
it yourself. Yeah. You roll it
gotcha,
yourself
gotcha.
and then it
Because
becomes bigger and bigger and
yeah, because
bigger.
the way I've seen in Yeah, the way I've seen in cartoons, it's always the mountain.
Yeah.
It's always an inclined surface.
Right. And then as it's coming down, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah, sure.
Snowball effect, basically.
Yeah, the snowball effect. And literally the snowball effect. I mean,
Mm.
maybe I've never seen that, but typically, like we would do it ourselves manually. We'd sit there flat, like a huge open flat field, and you just start off with a small snowball. You make it, and you put it on the ground, you roll it, and then as you're rolling it, the snow tends to not stay fully round. So then you change directions to get it to, and then you kind of pack it together. And then people are taking snow and putting it on it and packing it in, and you're rolling it more and becomes so massively heavy that you can't roll it yourself. So you need like 2, 3, 4, 5 people, these little kids, like all pushing the snowball together to try to keep building it, making it larger. And it gets to a point where it's so heavy and so big that any snow that it comes in contact with, it's just picking it up, and especially if it's packing snow, it sticks to that snowball. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until eventually it does get to a point where it's so big, it just like it can't hold its own weight. And it starts to
Mm.
like just crumble from the
Well,
inside, and then it just starts to break apart.
I see. I thought it would stay there until summer comes.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on the packing snow. Depends on the packing snow. If it's really good packing snow, then yeah, I mean it'll turn almost into like an ice ball. Yeah. It was fun. Good memories. Good memories being a kid. I miss those days. But I also don't, you know. Those days were tough. I had a tough childhood growing up in a lot of ways.
Uh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. How about you? How was it for you when you were a little kid?
I think when I was under 10 years, maybe, I was pretty clueless, like most kids are. We are just winging it. We are doing what parents say, we are doing what teachers say, we are just going to school, coming back, playing, and that's basically it.
Hmm.
Until 10 years, I think everything was just on autopilot mode.
Hmm.
And after 10, you begin to see things, you begin to understand things. So, yeah, I also had some ups and downs in my childhood, which I realized after maybe 10 years when I grew up, kind of. Before that, the things were just, they just felt normal,
Hmm.
or they didn't feel like this is a troubled family or something like that.
Hmm.
So, yeah, things, you see that, and that is part of growing up. I think every family has some kind of troubles that they don't talk about, and that kind of sits inside you when you grow up, and that makes part of your psyche, and it depends how soon you deal with them, right?
Hmm.
How soon you come to terms with them, and yeah, basically that becomes part of your personality.
Sure. Um, did you have a lot of bullies at your school?
uh, yeah, I think every school has them, but I was never kind of, broken by the bullies or something.
Hmm.
They weren't that harsh for me. I mean, there were moments that they made me cry, but I never took that as a big deal or anything.
Hmm.
It was common.
That's interesting. Were you like, were you a big kid? Were you a little kid? Were you like about average?
Average. I'm still average.
You're way above average to me, buddy.
I'm talking, uh, of course, the height wise.
I know. I know. Yeah, I was like
No, but in school,
yeah.
I was really average at everything. My scores were also average. My sports activities, my number of friends, everything was just average.
Hmm.
So I had no particular inclination in school towards even subjects also. All
Hmm.
scores were just average.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah, and I don't even remember having any specific hobbies.
Hmm.
So I would just do whatever came along.
Hmm.
If there was a pool table, I would play on a pool table. If there was a video game, I would play that. If there is cricket, I would play that. I would just take up anything because I was just average at everything.
Interesting. There wasn't anything that really like captivated you that you wanted to just focus on and become really, really good at?
I never came across anything like that.
Hmm. That's interesting. So you would go to school, you would study, and you would just hang out with whatever people there were around to hang out with at the time, just doing whatever.
Whoever was sitting next to me was my best friend.
Such a simple life.
Yeah.
Such a simple life. Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I think I had a very different childhood. I had I don't know, I never made friends with any of the kids in my class, really. I was more friends with somebody else in a different class, like a different set of classes than me. We became really good friends. Everybody else that was in my class, like I would maybe hang out with them here and there, but I didn't really consider them to be my friends. Yeah. And I did very poorly in school. Very, very poorly. I wasn't interested in school at all. I didn't care about school. I didn't want to be there. I found the stuff that I was learning to be useless. I was like, when am I ever going to use this in my life? And I didn't like as a kid, you don't realize that what they're actually trying to do is, yeah, teach you some stuff that's kind of maybe cool and interesting to know. But what they're really doing is training your brain how to think and how to learn things.
That's the ultimate goal, yeah.
Yeah. And as a kid, you don't realize that. Nobody explained that to me. I just
True.
thought to myself, like a lot of kids, like this is useless. Like, why am I learning how to, I don't know, why am I learning about cell division? Like, I'm not going to become a biologist.
Hmm.
I'm not going to become like a chemist and learn how carbon atoms are attracted to other carbon atoms and how those bonds are, how they'll attach to that bonds from, they'll make a bond with another type of atom. Like, I don't really care about that kind of stuff. Didn't matter to me. Like, I'm not going to use any of this. So why learn any of this? Like, why even spend the time? It seemed like a complete waste of time to me to spend my valuable time doing that stuff when I could just be enjoying my life or learning things that were interesting to me. So yeah, I had a very different experience of school. I don't know if any of that is like relatable to some of the experience you had in school, but that was my experience. That was the way that I thought about school.
In school, yes, I was someone who would ask questions,
Mm,
but this thing that really never came to mind, that why we are studying this, what is the goal of studying this particular subject, why do we have these six subjects itself, why don't we have anything else, why is computer an optional subject, computer being such an important thing. Back then, of course, the IT wasn't this big of a deal, but still people could see that computer is rising and it should have been made a compulsory subject, but it was only made a subject, something like physical education, that you just have to go to once a week.
yeah.
So I believe we never really thought about that much, about our subjects, because of course we didn't have any interest, so we didn't have any specific interest, so we didn't ask about the subjects, we never asked why don't we have music in our school.
Mm,
We never had music lectures, by the way,
that's
which is
interesting.
which is odd right now
Mm,
to think about.
that is odd. A lot of schools when I was growing up didn't have music, but I was very fortunate that music was a big part of the curriculum for like from almost all of my education. Uh, Music was something that I really tried to work hard at because I was interested in it, but I still had a tough time with it. And then also, we would learn pieces of music. I was like, why am I learning how to play Beethoven? Like, who cares? I don't care about Beethoven. I want to learn Beethoven. I want to learn something that's cool. I want to learn something like some rock music or, things like that. So I was always questioning everything. I was always questioning, like, why are we doing this? What's the
And what
point?
age was this?
Very early on, I would say, I think once I got to about grade 4 or 5.
So that's 8, 9 years.
Yeah, I was about maybe 8, 9, 10 years old around there, where I started questioning things. Like, why are we learning this stuff? Why does this even matter? Like, why do I got to read this book and like
Mm.
understand the things in this book and talk about these stories that don't even, they're just made up? Like, why are we doing any of that? How is this useful? How is this going to help me with life? How is this going to help me become better at life? Like, I wasn't making that connection between the stuff that we're learning and how it would just the whole process of learning these things. The main purpose of it was to become good at learning things. Just you're just learning how to learn stuff. And nobody said that to me. The only thing that I was ever told that connected really well with me in school was during we had a computer lab in high school, and the computer teacher at the time said, this is one of the most important things for anybody to learn is computers, how computers work and how to use them, how to make, we were programming. We were learning how to program at a very early age, like how to like make little games, how to put in commands into MS-DOS and be able to spit out a variety of outputs. We're learning that like, I think at grade 9 or 10.
Mm.
And the teacher was very adamant on making it very clear how important it would be to learn this stuff because in the future, computers would be a very important part of our life, everyday life. And having the ability to learn these things would give you a huge edge over other people that weren't really learning this stuff. So, but that's still didn't because, but then I made a choice. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not going to do anything with computers anyways. That's what I thought. I'm not going to learn this stuff really because I'm not really going to do anything with computers. I'm not going to have a job in computers.
Mhm.
So, yeah. And I think a lot of kids probably experience that. I would imagine so.
Yeah, you're right. Because back then, really, computer wasn't really that big of a deal. Even the teachers didn't understand what programming was.
Yeah.
They were just following the textbook. And I remember that was there was DOS programming. We used to make basic calculations, basic programs.
Yeah.
We used to do that.
Yeah.
And I was good at it. I could get all the programs right. And but still, that never made me feel okay. This is something that I want to pursue or dig deeper.
Was there anything at an early age where you're like, this is really cool? I would that'd be awesome if I was able to do this for, to make money with or have like a career in this or
Let me think because I really can't remember anything that enticed me at that age.
something that you were learning it and like you could imagine how you would use it maybe in your everyday life. You could see how it would be something that you would end up pursuing in some way. It would be incorporated into something that you would pursue to some degree.
Mm, I just can't remember any such thing.
Hmm.
But yeah, one of the interests that I had uh, was watching Discovery Channel and see, you know, these random science episodes. And there was a show called Junkyard Wars where you would gather junk pieces and build a machine out of it.
Hmm.
So that was kind of interesting for me. I myself began to gather junk and old equipments from around the house. I tried to combine them, try to build something. And that was a fun time that I used to have by myself. And yeah, I don't still remember feeling that I could do this for a living or something, or I should go deeper, I should learn more about it. I never thought about it that way.
Hmm.
And even if I got interested in machines, I took up mechanical engineering, and I'm pretty sure that wasn't the reason that I was, interested in that or anything else. But after getting into mechanical engineering, I saw that those two things are not at all related.
Hmm.
The thing that I was interested in as a kid, that was building things out of, you know, basically creative problem solving, if you can, if I can put it that way, and mechanical engineering, that is not at all connected.
Hmm.
The
But
curriculum does not encourage creative thinking.
hmm. I mean, but isn't the whole thing about engineering is creative problem solving in itself?
That's what you would think before going into that.
Yeah.
That's what I thought as well. But when you go into the curriculum part, it is purely theoretical.
Hmm.
It's like 80-90% theory and just 10-20% practical application.
Why do you think it's
So
taught that
basically,
way?
in India, most of the things are taught that way. And it's basically so that most of the people can just get through. And if there is someone who is actually interested in that, they are going to find their own way to implement it practically. I think that's the thing that has been working for Indian students so far.
Well, I think that's common for universities in general. Like universities are based upon learning theoretical concepts, gaining a theoretical understanding of a particular subject or subject matter through curriculum based sharing of
Yeah, and I
knowledge,
understand.
you know?
And I understand it makes sense from the economical point of view, because not every college or university can spend that amount on practical applications.
Yeah.
Theory is very cheap,
Yeah.
almost free, if you could come to think of it,
Yeah. Almost free. It's true. You're just paying for the facility to teach and the materials to teach, books.
which you are yeah, which you are going to spend on anyway.
Yeah. And the
So it's
professor
almost free.
teaching the material and researching it.
Again, which is hired anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, college here is designed specifically to be all practical knowledge. So there is some theory, but then it's like, okay, now let's take this theory and put it into a setting where you can apply it and learn how, like, learn the connection between the ideas and concepts of what you're learning and how it's used in an actual role that you would
Yeah.
be
So
performing some duties and responsibilities.
exactly.
Yeah.
And now that I think about it, if that is actually implemented, then the situation will be completely reversed. I think now 10% people are failing, and if the practical part is made compulsory, then 10% people will only pass and excel, and that can increase the number of suicides
Hmm.
ultimately, because failure is somehow related to self-esteem and all those things, and
Sure.
that already happens a lot.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So then the question becomes is how do you get people to excel at something? Or I guess you just put a whole bunch of people through some basic understanding of something and then allow those folks to choose whether or not they want to pursue it further. And then from there, those folks who decide for themselves that they want to pursue it further gain a little bit of a practical understanding of how
Yeah.
things work. And then out of that bunch will, it's basically like a filter. You'll have some,
Yeah, yeah,
like a funnel or a filter to get to eventually those
exactly.
people who can actually perform the work quite well.
exactly. There should be room for that. Our current curriculum does not even provide the room for that. The curriculum is so packed that you can barely take a vacation. Here, kids are not really enjoying the vacation. They are not spending vacation the way kids should be.
Mm.
If there is, let's say, 2 months of vacation, they will spend 1 month on their own or doing whatever. And most of the times, they will just enroll in vacation classes, vacation batches that start studying even before the college begins.
Mm. Crazy. So summer school.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm not aware of the concept of the summer school,
Mm.
but we
So
call it vacation batch here.
okay, so like when does a year of school begin? Like what month does that happen there?
Typically, it begins in June.
Oh, interesting. Okay, then when does it end?
It ends March end maybe.
Interesting. Okay, so similar
So
time
now, currently, yeah.
span.
So yeah, currently this is vacation period going on.
Okay, so similar
Period.
time span. Ours starts in about September in Canada. Well, at least here in Ontario, in Toronto. I know in the States it's common to start in August. And then you go until about June here. So
Okay.
you have July and August. You have 2 months off of school to just you go to a camp or you go to vacation or you
Yeah,
just
that
hang
makes
out at
sense
home
because
or
summer is July, August there.
yeah. So some kids go to summer school. That's what we call here summer school. You might take like one or two classes during that time period in summer and accelerate their learning. Maybe they'll because they can maybe finish school earlier overall and get to maybe university or college sooner.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Over there, it's for some kids.
Hmm.
Here, it's for almost every kid.
Hmm.
So here, the case is reverse. Some kids won't go
Yeah. Hmm.
to the vacation batches.
Hmm. Most kids don't here. Most kids do not take part in summer school. Most of the kids taking part in summer school are ones that did poorly during the year and now they're doing makeup classes to get a better grade in a certain subject, or maybe they failed a subject, so now they're taking a summer school class to be able to
Yeah, I feel
keep up.
this is the time period which can be utilized as the practical space. Basically, when they come back to school, they need to give a presentation, and explain whatever we learned last year. How did we apply that
Hmm.
in these 2 months?
Hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good
So
idea.
it can be vacation, it can be optional. Practical part can be optional.
Yeah.
If someone wants to enjoy the vacation, they can make memories, and other people can make projects.
Yeah, it's better. That's a better idea for sure. I think there's differences culturally as well from here. Not, I think, I mean, we know there are differences culturally from here to there in terms of the expectations and societal pressures, social pressures for how well you do in school. I think it's different. I mean, there's similarities as well, for sure, but there's also a lot of differences. I think there's a lot more, I believe there's a lot more social pressure probably there in India to do well in school than there might be here. Maybe it's different now, though, but I think when we were younger.
Yeah, you are right. The parental pressure, we call it, that's quite high in India. And that is why we see the suicides and all happening, because the parents are not able to manage the expectations.
Yeah, here
Besides,
there's.
yeah, recently, of course, the things have been changing because there are because of these online developments and social media, people have begun to realize that even without studying, they can develop a career, which
Yep,
is not necessarily a good thing in my opinion, because you have to have a backup plan, because this social media thing is not necessarily going to be a viable career.
for sure.
So but I've seen kids who have basically stopped studying altogether because they want to be a gamer, an influencer, or a model, things like that, which, to be very honest, can be easily replaced with AI in the coming years. Like already there are AI models, fashion models, and even advertising models.
Oh, it's
I've
wild.
seen I've seen already, you know, I've already seen these apps popping up which are using, you can tell, if you look carefully, you can tell that these are not real models, these are AI.
Hmm.
There are already ads happening. So modeling is not really going to be a big career in the future. Gaming can be controlled by AI, and AI can themselves play the game, broadcast it. So in future again, you are less likely to succeed against AI in gaming.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know so much about that one, and I don't know so much about like. I think there will be some crossover. I don't think. I think the Venn diagram between human and AI, there's definitely some crossover. So I think there's a space for both to exist simultaneously. I think there people will always desire human models, like real human models. There will be a desire for that. There'll be an interest, I think, in digitally created or AI types of models. Sure, people enjoy playing video games and they're fun. So I don't think I think there'll always be people playing games of sorts. And then there'll probably be just like there. I mean, just like now, when you play a game, there's different levels of difficulty of a game. And so the AI, the difficulty of it's like you're playing against, like if you're playing what's called a PvE game, so player against the environment, which tends to be like you against whatever AI is currently exists in the game. There's different sort of tiers of difficulty, and you can choose the level of difficulty you play. So essentially, you're choosing the level of difficulty of AI that you're playing against. So I think that'll always. I don't think that that'll change, but I think it'll just get better. There'll be more integration. There'll be more collaboration. But I don't think there will be a complete takeover. I don't see that happening. Yeah.
Because I really can't see anything that is technologically dependent that we can do better than AI.
That's technologically dependent. I mean, there's a lot of things that AI does better than humans, but there's a lot of things that humans do better than AI. And I think that, I mean, maybe it'll change. Maybe over time, as AI becomes more sophisticated, it'll do it better, but
Yeah,
potentially.
I'm
But
talking few years down the line, because the speed at which AI is rapidly growing, I can see that in few years these at least these three things that I said could be completely AI dominated.
where, I mean, if you take the gaming side of things in particular that you were talking about, are you talking about AI creating games?
So it's something like how do these gaming influencers are working right now? They are playing games and they are talking in background, and
Okay. So you're
so
talking about just
gaming
like
plus
social
entertainment.
media related specifically.
Yeah. So an AI can automatically autoplay the game, and it can also add the voiceover of what it is doing in the moment, and speak about random stuff as well. So that can end up being a complete gaming
Right.
influential video.
Right. Sure. I mean, I suppose you could have content. You're sort of talking about like content creators specifically creating content where they're allowing an AI model to play a game and stream it and talk about their experience playing games just like a human does now. Sure.
Yeah.
I think that that'll exist. Sure. I think that'll exist. But I think that, again, like that'll just be another way to collaborate with AI. But I think there will always still be some people playing games as they do now, streaming it as they do now, interacting with people as they do now. Um, and I think that people will, I think if people had to choose, maybe there will be some people that will, if they know that it's an AI, will find that really interesting and will be very much attracted to following a content creator that is, created this AI model as the face and voice of the channel. And that might be interesting for some people, but I think some people will still be very interested in people doing the same thing as they are now. I think there'll be some crossover. I don't think it will all go one way. I think there will be a blend. And there'll be some who will be interested in both. Like, oh, I find both interesting. And there'll probably be some AI that is so good that you don't even realize that it's AI. There might be some of that too. But I think there will be still that human element to doing that. I don't think that that'll stop. I think really the main thing that I see, at least for now, that AI will be used for is more collaboration as like a tool. Just like we use a calculator to help us do math, like really complex math that the average person just can't do in their heads. They'll use a calculator to do it. I think that AI is a tool very similarly to that. Will help us do some complex problems. And some people rely on it to do simple things, just like they rely on a calculator to do 1 plus 1. So you don't want to have to think about it at all. But I think that AI will be more used towards helping us do really complex things or repetitive things, things that we maybe don't want to do. I think the thing is like humans like to play video games and stream it and be a content creator. So because they like to do that stuff, I don't see them not doing it. Like, why would you stop doing something you don't really like? You're going to stop doing the things that you don't really want to do, and you do more of the stuff you do like to do. I think that's what technology enables us. That puts us in that kind of position to do more of the stuff we like to do, or to become a lot more efficient at things.
Yeah, here's the thing. When you see that there is an easier option, you tend to give up on the difficult ones. And that is happening more and more commonly.
Of course.
So the reason they are not studying anymore is because they are seeing that there is this influential platform that can help them, which is easier.
Sure.
Okay. Now, when they are here, they can see that the content can be made much more easily than AI. So they stop putting their own efforts into producing genuine content.
Sure. There'll be a lot of folks that will do that.
Yeah. And that is going to keep on filtering, and that is going to degrade the quality of content that we are, getting. Just for an example, I can see whenever I scroll the music videos and the singing videos on Instagram, I can listen that half of the singers are auto-tuned.
Yeah.
Which is again basically not putting effort into improving the singing and just using AI to improve the overall output.
Again, like I agree with you, but I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's ever as extreme as we might think it is. Like, for instance, like let's take the auto-tuning thing. Auto-tuning has been around for a very long time. A very, very, very long time.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and in fact, we can look at the singers that exist nowadays, and you can tell that there are still a lot of fantastic singers out there. In fact, I think singers actually have been improving over time in terms of their accuracy, how well they sing. And I think that actually might have to do to the fact that there is auto tune. And I'll tell you why. So, when if auto tune is implemented in music and somebody's growing up listening to a lot of music that's auto tuned and they want to become a good singer and they don't have access to auto tune and they're naturally consuming a lot of auto-tuned music that's not auto-tuned too much, but just enough so that way it's like just perfectly in tune. Their ear is developing and their brain is developing listening to that music. So those singers, those people that want to sing and become really good at singing, they have the ability to now practice with vocals that are perfect. And now in order to become really good, now that's their benchmark. Their benchmark is now here. Auto-tuned vocals, perfect vocals, pristine vocals. So now that's the benchmark. And you have no access to auto-tune. And you look at these singers, you're like, they're amazing singers. I look up to them. Like they're incredible. They have these amazing songs. I want to be a singer of that caliber. So now that's the goal. So I think there are again some people who look at that as an easy way out. Like I can't sing that accurately, so I'm going to rely on this tool in order to help me sound as if I can sing that accurately, even though I can't, and I'm not going to actually try to improve. But then you have some people, and I think that'll always be the case. There's something within us. I think there will always be something within humanity that just wants to know that you can do something really well, like with minimal assist, with minimal help. Like I'll give you a good example. I play a racing game, a racing simulator, right? And you can put on all kinds of driving aids like anti-lock brakes and suspension control and traction control and all this stuff. Okay? But I like to know that I can perform just as well in the game without those assists on. And in fact, I know that if I can, even though it's harder to do, I know that if I can do that, then I can actually drive the car much faster, because if the anti-lock brake system is on, sure, that helps me, but also prevents me from being able to go as fast as I might want to around a turn, because it's going to try to control the car from losing control. But there are situations where you're like right on the brink of losing control, and you can control the car enough in that very fine line. Right? So without the assist on, now I can really take the turn much faster than I would with the assist on. So, and that gives me a competitive edge to being able to do that. And I think there will always be people who will want the competitive edge of actually being able to do things without so many assists. There will always be that part of humanity. So I agree with you that there are a lot of people that are like that, but I wouldn't go as far as say like put a blanket statement down and say that all people like that. And in fact, the people that are not like that, they're competing against the people that are using the tools. And because they are naturally that type who don't want to rely, and because they're competing against the people that are cheaters, essentially cheaters, quote unquote, and they're trying to do better than those, because they have that mindset, it's much more likely that they will figure out a way to do better.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then now you've really brought humanity as a whole to a whole nother level of capability. So I don't know. I'm much more. Maybe I'm just too much of an optimist. I don't know. But I think that there's evidence for that. I think there's a lot of evidence for that.
No, if you put it that way, then of course it makes sense. But yeah, one has to be an optimist to see that direction.
I think that there's something within us that will always try to improve.
Yeah.
With limited assists, using some assists, the ones that we can use, the ones that actually help us, give us an edge. But there's something within us that want to know that we can just like do it without too many, with only the ones that are absolutely necessary to use to give us the edge. We'll use them, but if we don't have to use it, then we won't. Not everybody. There's be some people that just don't care. They're lazy. They're going to use it no matter what. They'll come up with excuses, or maybe they just have no competitive edge. They never will, and this is the only way for them to gain a competitive edge. And because that competitive edge spirit is within us, within humanity, and they don't have that competitive edge naturally, and that's the only way for them to be able to have it is by using those tools, then they'll use them. But again,
That actually makes me,
yeah.
yeah, you're correct that anyone who has that competitive spirit will work harder on themselves.
I think so.
That's true. Yeah, because that's what human species is all about. Whenever there is a difficult time, we find a way to get through it.
Yeah. And
Now here's the thing that makes me think of two things on a related or unrelated thing.
right.
Firstly, I was reading recently about Graham Hancock.
Graham Hancock.
He's
That
a
sounds familiar.
philosopher.
Yeah. Okay.
I think so. He's popular. He has a lot of theories on consciousness and I think about anthropology. So he basically tries to popularize this theory that human as a species are very, very intelligent, and collectively we can do a lot better, and we'll always do better if we work on something collectively,
Mhm.
which I agree on. And the second thing that makes me think about that comes to my mind is, if we are really an intelligent species, why a majority of us is going towards something like porn, which is again a menace for the internet, and something that is impacting a lot of young people. Like every day, I think, uh, yeah, basically, I'm seeing a lot of porn addiction being happening.
Why? I mean, I think I know why some people will do that. There's a lot of reasons. There's a correlation. I've heard about this. There being a very strong correlation between depression and anxiety, and certain types of addictions. There are some people that are just more prone to being addicted to things. And then there are some people who it's the only way for them to be able to get the impression as if they're experiencing something that they would have preferred to in real life. And being able to do it sort of vicariously. There's a lot of reasons for it. And I think you also have to remember is like, this is what I try to keep in mind. The more people there are, the more of the things that are naturally to occur as part of who we are as a species, the more of those things will happen.
Sorry,
And
I didn't get you.
so I think that like if humans are predisposed to certain types of behavior,
Let's say that is porn.
yeah, or whatever it is, if there's only, let's say, 5 people on the whole entire planet, and you have access to all the things we have access to now, so like 5 people, and the statistics are, I don't know, let's say 1 in 10 people will have that type of addiction or have that type of interest. We only have 5 people on the planet, so maybe nobody Nobody will have an addiction to that because it's 1 in 10 people. As soon as you get to 10 people, all of a sudden it's like, oh, now there's somebody out of the 10 people who has that addiction or has that interest, right? Now you have 20 people. Oh, now 2 people. It was 1 before. Now it's double.
Okay, so it's an ease of access problem.
I don't think, no, not so much ease of access. I'm talking about statistically the amount of people or the percentage of people that would be interested in something. If the percentage is 10% of people will have that interest, and there's only, I don't know, 100 people on the whole entire planet, there's only 100 people on the whole entire planet, then that means that only 10 people will have that, will display that interest. But now,
I
if you
understand that.
yeah,
Because
so yeah,
it's something related to genetic predisposition, right?
yeah,
So, so the genes were always there to get addicted to porn, but the porn wasn't always so easily accessible.
well, there were other things that
But
were
now
accessible instead, right?
I can think of things like that because in India it wasn't that easily accessible.
Okay, but there were other things, I'm sure, like brothels.
I don't think those are that easily accessible.
There,
Besides, there is a cultural thing.
okay, there must have been something, I'm sure, at some point in the history of India. It was a very long time ago, but whenever it was, I'm sure there was something that was common for people to partake in that had to do with that if there was no access to porn, for example,
Yeah,
but there was
okay. Yeah, I
access,
got
let's
it.
say, to other things instead of that, and they
Yeah.
had that natural like, I don't think it's like that thing specifically. I think there are a lot of choices somebody can make, and they have a particular predisposition, and some of those people that have that predisposition choose this thing or choose that thing or choose that thing, or maybe a combination of things, or maybe this thing a little bit and then that thing a little bit. And so I think it probably falls within like a category of certain predispositions to make choices. And if you have that particular predisposition and you have none of those choices to make, then but you have that predisposition, then whatever you have accessible to you at the time, culturally, socially,
Gotcha,
you'll
gotcha.
make those
Yeah,
choices instead.
yeah. That's very.
I think that's probably true.
Yeah. No, no. That's the pragmatic approach. And while you were talking about it, I couldn't agree more. Yes,
Hmm.
back in the time when there was nothing, no technology, no TV, no movies,
Hmm.
India was known for, what you said. India had these options,
Yes,
which we
sure.
call as mujra now. Mujra was basically that entertaining, seductive dance that used to take place in these circles where rich people would go have drinks, throw money. So yeah, that basically was the porn of that era.
There you go. Right?
Yeah,
So, yeah, and there was probably like something that was similar of that magnitude for the common folk as well, I would imagine.
agreed. Yeah, yeah,
You know,
could be.
so
Yeah.
so yeah, like you can't blame, I don't think it's one particular thing that is the
Hmm.
problem. I think that it's part of our nature. Like if you got rid of that thing, it would be other things. If you got rid of all those things, it would be a whole bunch of other things. I think we're
Right.
just we have as a species, we have certain predispositions, and there's some people that are more predisposed than others.
Hmm. So basically, if someone has one addiction, it's very likely that they are going to have one more, multiple addictions, because
Maybe,
that's genetic.
maybe. I think we all have addictions. This is a little bit of a theory I
Yeah.
have.
No, I understand what you're saying that some everybody has some kind of addiction, and some of them addiction are considered good, and others are considered bad
Yeah.
culturally.
Yeah, culturally, sure, sure.
Yeah,
Although addiction in general is generally not a good
common.
thing. But some people are addicted to things where it's celebrated that they're addicted to it.
Mhm.
Like for example, some people are so addicted to being competitive And
Hmm.
because they're so addicted to competition, they can outperform everybody in their particular area, and then they become very successful. They earn all this money because of it, or maybe they gain this celebrity status, or and they get put up on a pedestal for their addiction, which is very interesting that we do that in some areas and not in others,
Yeah.
right?
But
And I can understand why, but I'm just saying it's interesting.
hmm,
Yeah.
and at times they can even put others down because they just want to be competitive.
Yeah. 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 Some people are like that
True.
too, right? They will psychologically mess with people because that's part of them being competitive. They'll just destroy somebody psychologically, emotionally to gain that competitive edge over them. And we're like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's totally okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that reminds me of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Have you seen
Hmm.
his documentary movie Pumping Iron?
I haven't, but I've heard it's pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty good. And there is this one scene where he is shown to be that what you just said. He is someone who would go all in to win, and just a day before the competition, he tries to get into the head of his competitor,
Mm-hmm.
who is basically he's someone who turned out to be very famous as well, Lou Ferrigno. And but Arnold took advantage of his, you know, naiveness, you can say. He was pretty naive. He was kind of, I don't want to use the word slow,
Hmm.
but he was not really someone who could be seen as, again, I don't want to be politically incorrect. So, how would you put it?
He was gullible, maybe. He had a lower IQ,
Hmm.
perhaps.
Yeah, maybe we can put it that way. So, yeah, he seemed someone like who has low range of IQ. And Arnold, just a day before the competition, had a breakfast with him and was trying to get into his head,
Hmm.
while the father of the competitor was sitting right there.
Hmm.
And he does it very easily. And today we just revere Arnold Schwarzenegger because he was someone who did everything. He did variety of things, right? And now when we listen to his biographies, he explains that he's someone who did it everything in a planned way.
Of course.
So his winning was planned, his even being senator was planned, everything was planned. So he has been that competitive guy, and he wouldn't stop at, something like putting someone down.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, he's famously said, um, "Be prepared to break every single rule as long as you're not breaking the law."
Hmm.
If somebody says you can't do something, they said it's not possible to do that because of this particular rule or whatever. Challenge it. Do it anyways, as long as you're not breaking the law, doing something illegal.
Okay, so there is always a room to, what you say. I think, yeah, that can help someone to get the competitive edge. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of new point of views today, a lot of new perspectives.
Going back to what we were talking about before, regarding human beings, and the interest for other human beings to praise those who do well at something, who perform well. I think also there's a lot of just effort. Even if somebody doesn't perform very well, but you know they work really hard at it, you know that their work ethic is very strong, or you just like them as a person. You're just a likable person. And they don't perform particularly well, but because you like them, you tend to side more with them So
Mhm.
it's not just specifically about the ability to do something well. It's also about like how likable you are
True.
and how authentic. Like authenticity is really important too to people. We really like authentic people.
We do.
Yeah. So again, it's not just about performing well. And even
Mhm.
if there's an AI that's likable, that can, come across as authentic, um, there will be those categories of AI uh, that you don't know are AI until you end up knowing are AI. But once you know and you were fooled, people don't like to be fooled. People don't like to be lied to.
Agreed. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So whoever, if it's a
That
company,
agitates them.
people don't like that. Um, so if there's a company behind that AI or a person, there will be a lot of backlash. So I think that, and again, I think that there will be ways people will play games to get around that, but then there will be people that won't do those types of things. Just because things are at our disposal to use in a particular way doesn't mean that a large majority of people will do it that way. In fact, again, call me an optimist, but I think there's a lot of reason to believe that human beings have on a very large scale, large percentage wise, have a very strong predisposition to be cooperative. So, what I mean by that specifically is if we know there's a capacity to use something for ill will, there will be a lot of people that will, but I think the large majority won't do that because they won't like the idea of doing that. They would much rather use something for the purposes of cooperation. So, yeah,
Speaking of cooperation,
yeah.
coming back to what I was saying earlier,
Hmm.
As Graham Hancock said, that collectively we can improve the species. And the second point that I mentioned about porn
Yeah,
or any kind of addiction, basically.
yeah.
How can we collectively reduce addiction?
Uh,
It may not happen in one generation, of course, but over time.
I think I don't. I think you can reduce it, but you can't get rid of it.
Okay.
You can't
Just like
eliminate.
viruses.
Yeah, you can't eliminate it. Nor, I don't know if we necessarily would want to eliminate it, and I'll tell you why. Because those people who have that predisposition for those addictions, if you were to even make the attempt to eliminate it, what would be the replacement? Because it'd have to be something that replaces that. Would do we really think we could replace that with for those folks for them to be the types of folks to perform well in society as well as people that don't fall into the categories of those predispositions to addiction? Can we really expect that that would happen? I don't know. I don't know. And if we attempt to do that, um, are they maybe the types of people that would be more susceptible to making certain decisions that are much more detrimental to themselves and to maybe the people around them? I don't know. So I think there's that has to be considered. But how do you reduce it? I think access to resources. Access to
But
resources.
that keeps on increasing.
What do you mean?
The access
To
is
resources?
getting, yeah, it's getting more and more common to access things like even alcohol,
Yeah.
cigarettes, and
No,
porn, whatever.
I meant access to resources to counteract um, the propensity for addiction. So resources such as like clinics or education or support services. or
Okay.
the right people to be connected with as part of your social circle. Things like that. Those types of resources.
Okay, so addiction management services.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. That could be, oh wow.
I'll
That
give you a great example.
makes me think of a new career option.
I'll give you a great example. There's a service here that is absolutely free, that's funded by the government here, and it's throughout all of Canada. They have a lot of different centers. They've got hotlines. They've got all kinds of resources. And very few people actually know that this stuff exists.
Mhm. Right.
Very few people know that this stuff exists. So it's not just also about access and the availability of resources, it's the awareness of those resources. That's also the other thing. Like strong awareness of these resources that they're and what the different options are and how to get access to them, how to utilize them, how to take advantage of them, where they are. So yeah, I think more of a focus on that would be helpful. Like I know there are certain countries in Europe, for example, that treat drug use not as a crime, but as a sickness. They don't put people in jail. I can't remember which country it is. You can look this up, but I know they don't put people in jail. What they do is they put them into a hospital, and not like the type of
Or a
hospital where
rehab.
they're, yeah, not the type of hospital where, yeah, not, it's like, yeah, I guess it's a rehab of sorts, but it's not the type of hospital where they're constrained. It's like a type of hospital where they actually will give them the drugs there and they'll supervise them. So it's like,
Mm.
if you want the drugs, don't get it on the street where you could die or you could be hurt or you might have to do things in order to get the drugs that are like very dangerous things. Come to these clinics, we'll give you the drugs here and it will be supervised and you'll have support. And you can take the drugs as much as you want, but it will be supervised and you'll have support while you do it. And it'll actually be controlled. That's very different, right? So if you like
Yeah,
really
this
need
is the first
it,
time I'm listening of this.
yeah.
So
I'm going to
so
look this
basically
up. I
they,
forget where this is, but I'm pretty sure this exists.
but what do they do? Like they give a limited dose per day or they keep on reducing the dosage?
I think it depends, but there's like a very and then there's a strong correlation. I think it's in a country or a city within a country. Where I'm going to find this, but and maybe I just made this up in my head, but I'm pretty sure that this is right. But there's a strong correlation that shows that when they provide this level of support, there's a massive reduction in crime and there's a massive reduction in addiction. And it actually benefits economically to do this because then you put people back into a position where they can actually function and provide back into the economy, right? As a functioning resource to the economy. So let me look this up. Are there countries that do not criminalize drug use and addiction and provide, I think it's like Italy or something like that, if I remember correctly. I didn't spell criminalize. Caramelize. No, criminalize. How do you spell
Make it
criminal?
sweeter.
Oh, here, criminalize is with it. No, it's not with an S. How do you spell criminalize? Criminalize. Oh, I forgot some letters. That's why. Criminalize. I'm so bad at spelling right now. It's too late here on a Friday. Criminalize.
Yeah, we'll wrap up after this.
Are there countries that do not criminalize drug use and addiction and provide support services where they provide the drugs to addicted people? I don't know the best way to really refer to that, but to provide the drugs in a controlled environment such as a hospital. Okay. Or clinic. Okay, here we go. So yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. It said Canada. I want to read more about that. So yes, there are countries that have adopted harm reduction approaches to drug use and addiction, which include providing support services and even supervised drug consumption facilities where drugs are provided in a controlled environment. These programs aim to minimize the negative health and social consequences associated with drug use while also addressing the underlying issues of addiction. Here are a few examples of countries that have implemented such policies. Portugal. Portugal is often cited as a leading example of a country that has decriminalized drug use and adopted a public health approach to drug policy. In 2021, Portugal decriminalized the possession and use of all drugs for personal use, shifting the focus from punishment to treatment and harm reduction. Individuals found in possession of small amounts of drugs are referred to a dissuasion commission, which may impose administrative sanctions or refer individuals to treatment services. Portugal also provides a range of harm reduction services, including needle exchange programs, opioid substitution therapy, and supervised consumption rooms. So this is exactly what I was talking about. Okay, Switzerland has a program. I'm not going to read in depth into it. Netherlands has a program, and supposedly Canada has. Okay, I want to read about this because I don't know about this. I know they decriminalized all drugs in Vancouver, but I've heard Vancouver is like a disaster right now. So I don't know if there's like they're in the middle of putting things together properly, but they really shouldn't be in the middle of it. It should be like had done right from the start. But anyways, I know it's kind of a mess there, but let's see what they say about Canada. Canada has adopted harm reduction principles in its drug policy and has implemented supervised consumption sites in several cities across the country. These sites provide a safe and hygienic environment for individuals to consume drugs under medical supervision, reducing the risk of overdose and transmission of infectious diseases. Canada also offers opioid substitution therapy, needle exchange programs, and other harm reduction services. Where in Canada specifically are these services provided? What cities, and do you have the name of these facilities? Okay. Vancouver's number one. Located in the downtown east side neighborhood of Vancouver, Insight was the first supervised injection site in North America. It has been operating since 2003 and provides a range of services including supervised injection, wound care, referrals to addiction treatment, and counseling. Toronto, The Works is the name of a place. I got to look it up. Located in downtown Toronto, The Works is a harm reduction program operated by Toronto Public Health. It offers supervised injection services, needle exchange, counseling, and referrals to other health and social services. So they have it, but it's not really decriminalized here, I wouldn't say. I don't know. Maybe I need to read up on it more, but it didn't say anything specific about it being decriminalized. But I remember hearing, I thought it was Italy, but it might have been Portugal or Switzerland, about the decriminalizing of drugs. Anyways, so I think that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And that should happen in a lot more places in the world. It's interesting how that doesn't happen in the United States,
where the fentanyl is becoming more and more common.
prevalent. Yeah.
And I've seen these fentanyl videos. These are horrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty bad, man. It's pretty bad. So I don't know. But there again, there's really good, strong evidence to show that having the infrastructure set up like Portugal does, Switzerland, I suppose to some degree what we have here, although I don't think it's nearly as extensive as it probably is in Portugal and likely Switzerland. Um, but there's a lot of evidence to show that uh, it's quite powerful. It's a great way to combat these different all kinds of different addictions, and it's just a matter of will people use them, and how
Yeah, I think
safe people feel to open up and talk about these things and go to these facilities and not have a sense of shame for going there. How much is a
so.
part
I
of the
think
culture
in the
too?
end, yeah, in the end, it comes to that only, taking the first step.
Yeah.
So
And
I think we can wrap up now, and
yep.
anybody who is watching, they are now aware of these resources, and maybe they can make others aware, make use of it.
Yeah.
We have done our job.
I hope we've helped for the 0 people that are watching.
That's a lot.
It's a lot more than we expected. Okay,
Yeah.
Amit, go do your thing. Always a pleasure, always fun. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon in 1 week.
Likewise, likewise. I enjoyed this podcast as well.
Yeah, it was
It's
good.
always good to talk to you, and you always give me different perspectives. Just like today, I think in every topic, I got a new perspective from you today.
Oh, I appreciate that. And you as well. You got me thinking about things I otherwise would never really think about. Like you ask really good questions. Really, really good questions that put me on a train of thought that I don't normally have anybody to put me on those trains of thought. So thank you for doing that. It's great.
Yeah, so it's a good team in the end.
I think so.
All right. So we'll wrap it up again
Yeah.
and see you next Saturday.
See you in 1 week. Oh yeah, and the topics. I'm. How about computer programming, Kashmir skiing, and addiction.
Addiction for sure. And I think we talked about more than programming. I think we talked about the education system
Hmm,
in general, because we were talking how students should be given more practical opportunities. And
that's true.
what was the third? What can you
Cat.
add?
I we could talk about competitive edge because I think we talked about that for
Sure.
quite a little bit. So competitive edge. I said also Kashmir skiing because I just think that's kind of cool that you can ski in
Yeah, we
Kashmir.
started with that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Skiing in Kashmir.
yeah. I think that's kind of cool that you can do that. And addiction.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll shut it down for now and see you next week.
Shutting it down for now. See you next week. Have a great week and bye.
Bye bye.